So I introduce myself. I'm an orthopedic spine surgeon here at Swedish Neuroscience Institute. I've been practicing complex spine surgery for 32 years, going on 33. And a lot of people in the room are thinking retirement's a good thing to have happen, and it's not. I love what I do, and I'm not that happy about retiring, but if we retire tomorrow or do it in 5 years, I gotta figure this out anyway. So retirement's gonna be a learned skill, and I'm working on it. And so Danielle's one of our fellows, 2 years ago, Danielle? Did a great job, and Danielle was exposed to David and I. Emory has been working with David and I for a couple of years, and it's been really one of the most enjoyable parts of my practice to actually work with David. So I'm a spine surgeon. David is who are you?
Well, I'm a golf teacher merged into being a surgical coach and sports performance coach at the University of Washington.
So we're going to start with a quick part of a video, and then we'll go through this in a few sequences here. So how this all came about is that my son, Nick, started skiing when he was 14 years old. And when he was 17 and 18 years old, he won the junior national championship 2 years in a row, both in duals mogul skiing. And everybody thought he was going to be the next Olympic champion in moguls. He's an international level skier. And then his friend Holt also is an extraordinary skier. Nick had some tough times, about 20 years old, with some family issues, drinking a little bit too much, whatever it was. Literally fell off a cliff for about 5 years, so about 25 years old. And meanwhile, I moved back to Seattle in 2003. I'd been in Sun Valley for 4 years supporting Nick skiing. And I'm an obsessive golfer, and I was told by one of my golf instructors I've taken more lessons than any other one person he's known with the worst results he's ever seen. So every time I take a golf lesson, I'm sort of analyzing, taking a surgeon's mindset to it, and it doesn't work in golf. So David was my golf instructor in 2003, and he's talking about hardware and software and all these performance things. And I'm going, look, just give me a golf swing. And my wife's poking me and going, God, you got to listen to him. Anyway, 2006, Nick and Holt were really struggling. They had tried working with some sports psychologists that wasn't working well. And I knew David's performance skills. I hadn't really internalized them. So I brought him down to downtown in October 2006, and David was explaining to them the performance model. And I'm going, wait a second, isn't surgery a performance? Remember, there's the operating theater in the history of the world. So I was listening to this, and David called me out. I said, yeah, this is a performance. And he asked me to put my cards on the table. So for 18 months after that, I was intensely coached by David. And I would say my complication rate probably dropped 80% over the next 18 months. And it's stayed that way. It's continued to evolve over time. So I actually use his skills more now than I did in 2006. So it's been a shortening journey for me personally. We've now internalized the process into a fellowship training. Every week we meet with David, talk to him, and teach our fellows the same performance skills. But I want to tell you Holt's story here, which is the rest of this video. This is 2007.
Welcome to a spectacular day at Killington, the largest ski and snowboarding resort in the eastern United States. Today, it's the Sprint U.S. Freestyle Championships.
Come on, Holt.
As we get set to watch Holt Haga of Park City. The Park City Freestyle team, coached by Mick Berry, Nat Sherman, Chris Marchetti, and the whole crew out there. Third place at Nationals in 2005. Roberts, the current leader at 27.22. Holt Haga on course.
I really like Holt Haga's turns. Lots of range of motion, very smooth and fluid when he's on. Beautiful back full off the top jump, got right into the rhythm of the moguls. Man, these are the best turns that we have seen so far today through the middle section of this course. Look at his pole plants right on the backside of the moguls as he airs out nicely. A big old D-spin off the bottom jump. Best run that we have seen so far today. Nate Roberts had a couple bobbles through the middle section of the course. I like Holt's run more.
So Holt Haga, the speed, pretty solid too, 23.15.
Look at those knees coming all the way up to his chest. His chest has to stay nice and tall so that he can utilize that range of motion, and then the D-spin airs it out huge.
Holt's with Shawn Smith in the crowd.
Big man, Holt Haga ripping down that course. A fast time and dynamic turns. How did you get that done, especially with the light kind of fading as it is?
Well, that was kind of the thing. I mean, light was changing. It got kind of the whole course got shaded over. Snow is definitely fast. You can feel it coming through the middle, but all in all, course is ripping. Soaked.
Well, you should be stoked. Holt, 27.65. You're the new leader here at the Sprint US Freestyle Championships. Out of control run for Landon Gardner, but exciting for the spectators. And there's your champion. Boom, Holt Haga of Park City, Utah.
Now, I want you to listen to this interview very carefully.
National champion in men's mogul skiing.
That's the right call by the judges. Holt Haga deserved to win.
Nate Roberts takes silver. Dave Babick with the bronze. Gardner, DeGravio, Bowman, Kerrigan, Temple, and Coda round out the top 8. Let's head down to Shawn Smith, who's with our new national champion.
Holt Haga, 2007 national champion. That sounds pretty good, doesn't it?
Oh my God, man! It felt good coming into today, but I had really no expectation of how it was going to end up, and just skied. And for the first time, just really had fun, and it was just, went my way, and everyone skied great.
You've been battling very hard to get in the spot here right now today. Now you're skiing against some of the best skiers in the world. What's that like, beating all those guys?
Oh my God, it's amazing. These are the best skiers in the world. It was really any day. It's really just whoever's day it is, and I'm just glad it was my day. I'm so excited, man. This is unbelievable.
Congratulations, you're the national champion. We'll throw it back up to you guys.
All right, thanks, Smitty. Nice job, Holt.
So I'd like to give a little bit more background to this. So Holt was not on the ski team at the time. Nate Roberts, the skier before him, has skied a 27.2. Anything over 26.5 out of 30 wins the tournament. So Nate, consistent, skied his run. Everybody thought this was over. Holt, again, not even on the U.S. ski team, 6 months after he started coaching with David, won the national championship. So he's going to explain some of the concepts that allowed him to get to that spot. This is about performance. And David's going to read a letter from one of our former fellows.
Yep. We played the video because, all of you are in a high-stakes, high-performance culture, right? There's a lot on the line in the careers that you have. We brought this experience and this learning from Holt. We'll try to weave it into some of the model kind of that we taught Holt and that we use with the fellows now. We had a letter from one of the fellows who was kind of a superstar when he came to the fellowship, was doing well. He wrote us this letter. I'm going to read it to you because you guys who were here last year have heard this before, but it's pretty good. It kind of puts it in perspective. A letter from he's a graduate of the Complex Spine Surgery Fellowship. I came from a residency program that provided excellent surgical training. It was very much a sink or swim program, and the stress of just surviving often felt nearly overwhelming. I was certainly taught nothing about stress management. What I learned there was to internalize it, tough it out, never repeat the same mistake twice. If I was to keep my superiors off my back, I had to be the most knowledgeable, driven, and intense person in the room. Weakness could not be tolerated. It was like blood in the water to a school of sharks. There's something to be said for this mantra. I certainly grew in my abilities. It forced me toward independent decision-making and confidence in spite of adversity. Yet I saw it break others down. What I can say is this: although my skill set upon graduating was solid, my mental preparedness was not. I was a fireball of energy with little emotional control. Any frustration tended to end in a volcanic eruption of expletives. At times, I was certainly not a pleasant person to work with. This is how I entered my complex spinal deformity fellowship. My experience at Swedish was nothing short of a game changer. One of the first things that Dr. Hanscom taught me is that the energy I summoned to do my best in residency and climb the hill is what will ultimately lead toward my crashing and falling off the cliff. Although I initially scoffed at the idea, deep down I knew it to be true. In essence, he taught me that the main ingredient in the recipe of creating a great surgeon isn't energy, a drive to beat others, some uncanny genius, or an encyclopedic memory. Sure, those might help, but they aren't enough. No, truly great surgeons simply enjoy what they do. They have fun taking care of patients and operating. Fun probably seems like an abstract concept to many residents, but it's completely true. To have fun, one must be truly relaxed and in control in all situations. Most importantly, this means in control of their own actions and emotions. Always proactive, rarely reactive. I learned the important concept of interferences. This is where the mental coaching and the fellowship was instrumental. Life is abundant with interferences. The OR of all places is chock full of interferences. I learned the concepts of hardware and software. Hardware are the external interferences, some modifiable, some not. The software is how you process the hardware, how you react to them. Performance equals skill minus interference plus or minus luck. My residency gave me the skills. The entire team at Swedish doubled those skills. Hanscom and Elaimy gave me the software to deal with the interferences. My performance skyrocketed. Although these may be easy concepts to digest, they aren't that easy to implement. It's a learned skill that requires practice. Furthermore, any gain in this area has profound implications for the rest of life in general. Thanks to the fellowship, I'm a better colleague, husband, and father. Now that I'm in private practice, I've dealt with difficult situations, navigating turbulent waters, and with success, thanks to what I learned. I will hold these teachings dear for the remainder of my career, which is kind of our goal for today, is to give you something that you can go and leverage on Monday and to the rest of today, and as you travel, so that perhaps you can get enough reps to have it last for the rest of your career.
So I would like everybody to take a deep breath, just drop your shoulders. And it's really a little bit of my own personal story, is that I went to one of the top spine fellowships in the world at the time, Minneapolis, Minnesota. Orthopedic world at the time, maybe top 3 in the world, maybe number 1. And I didn't get there by being a win. I got there, my attitude was bring it on, bring it on, bring it on. And my personal identity was being as tough as nails, really tough. I remember taking my thumb off almost with a framing hammer when I was 18 years old, and just stood there watching it wrap it up and kept going. So my facade was really excellent, really good. And so I got the fellowship, I did a great job, I came to private practice, I was what you would call a gunner. And I was right across the 520 bridge in 1990, and I had a panic attack. So I didn't even know what anxiety was. I remember admitting a patient on orthopedic service with anxiety disorder. I had to look it up. I didn't know what it was. So I went from literally not feeling anxiety at all to a panic attack. And from that point on, for 13 solid years, I kept going deeper and deeper and deeper into this hole. I had no idea what was going on. So I worked on my counseling, went to psychotherapy, I took medications, I exercised, I did all these diagnostic testing, and every year just getting worse and worse and worse. So the bottom line is that and a lot of you, how many of you are pre-medical students? A lot of you are pre-medical students? Okay. So I put a course in 2011 called A Course of Compassion, Empathy in the Face of Chronic Pain. And there's a Jefferson Compassion Index that they gave to pre-med students, and the Compassion Index was considerably higher than the general population. But by the third year in medical school, it just had plummeted dramatically. That didn't include residency. We know the burnout rate amongst physicians right now is 60%. And the bottom line is the same energy takes you up the hill, takes you right down the other side. And the energy is being hard on yourselves. Not good enough, not good enough, not good enough. And you're driven by that. And with your college students in college, you're like a hot knife through butter. It didn't work. You get there. But how do you define success? So I got to the top. I was in practice, making money, great reputation. And for 13 solid years, I could only stay alive. And in 2002, I was actually actively suicidal. I have 19 medical colleagues, including 4 medical school classmates, a fellow spine surgeon here in Seattle, that committed suicide. So the bottom line answer would drive this a huge different lecture, but the bottom line for burnout is anxiety. suppressed anxiety. Because you can suppress it, you can be tough, you can put it right under a pressure cooker, but your body doesn't believe it. So while you're suppressing anxiety intellectually, your body temperature's through the roof, adrenaline, cortisol, and histamines, and you get sick. So today we're going to give you, that's the concept. I just want you to understand, remember one thing, that this energy that's driving you right now will be the same energy that pushes you right down the other side. And so we're going to give you some concepts today that will at least break the paradigm. I also tell you, once you understand the paradigm shift, there's not a lot of rules, there's not a to-do list, it's basically the way you process information.
All right. So, about that. Let's put some meat on the bone and pull some of the concepts that the doc who wrote that letter pointed out, right? This is sort of the bedrock and foundation of the work we do with the fellows on a regular basis. So we'll give you the 101 version. You can break any domain, anything in life down into two areas, hardware and software. The hardware are the external factors, right? And some are modifiable and some are not. But the hardware in surgery, the hardware in your lives are external. So for example, the instruments in the OR, hardware. Other people, hardware. Situations, like the external situation that you're in, it might be a high pressure, high stakes, or a relaxing external situation, hardware, right? The other people, hardware. Other people's emotions, from your standpoint, hardware, okay? Software, and you can go on and on. I mean, there's a lot of hardware. Software kind of starts at the highest level, which would be like, do you have a personal philosophy or your approach or your perspective, right? That's a software program, right? That's somewhat internal. Thoughts are a software program. Every thought you have. You have a thought right now, it's a software program. Emotions are software. Okay, so we got that. So let's quiz you a little bit. You get a B on a test. Hardware or software? Hardware. Okay, pretty simple. Someone is yelling at you. Hardware or software? Hardware. Okay, you're experiencing a lot of pain in your leg. Hardware or software? Yeah, the pain is hardware, right? The experience of pain is hardware. You can amp it up with software, and Dave is like a guru at helping folks reduce pain through, there's a relationship between hardware and software, which is critical for all of you to understand. But software is this internal functioning, right? It's like the software program that runs the hardware. Okay, with that being said, you got that framework, and we're gonna kind of pop back and forth in on that framework. Hey, by the way, here's why hardware and software it's useful in an internal level, because you can ask the question, is this a hardware problem or a software issue? Most of the time, that's hardware, right? Technology. Most of the time, we're reacting to the hardware, as David alluded to. When you can divide it up and say, well, I got a software pathway to get my head straight, or I've got a hardware issue to deal with, and particularly in leadership, this is a big issue to be able to say, break it down and go, is this a hardware issue or a software issue, or in a relationship with my wife? It matters to be able to break those two down. It's just a tool that you can use going forward. Next thing, our performance formula. Right? And this is where you can take your pen out. I suppose we could write this down, but write this down somewhere unless you can memorize it. Performance equals skill minus interference. Performance equals skill minus interference. We're all about, I spend my life, I'll go down right when we're done and have a meeting with a, future NBA prospect. He's, gonna be a good player. His issues, his performance equals his skill minus interference plus or minus luck. If he was here, I almost brought him. We would look and say, well, in the one performance area that we're looking at, he's skilled enough. This guy is an athletic genius. He is a great shooter. He's very, very smart, super dialed in, but there's an interference obstructing his ability to perform under pressure. So Got this idea? So what are we working on? I mean, certainly he's always going to be working on the skill, and he's working on his craft countless hours. But I ask him the same question I'll ask you, and I ask everybody who wants to be great at what they do is, how much time are you spending on your craft? How much time are you spending on shooting, working, and learning and on craft? And how much time are you spending working on mental skills or reducing interference? And for him, the ratio was 98 to 2% of his time spending on getting better, 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 instead of addressing the interferences that might be there. Okay? So with that, performance equals skill minus interference. There's all kinds of skills that you are learning in this course. Today we're going to address and identify some of the interferences and mental states you want to be in to perform. So you got this idea of interferences. What I would like you guys to do, how do you want it to? We're going to break you guys up and take a few minutes to actually use your voice and have a conversation. So break up into groups of 3 or 4, so you might, or 5, whatever. So, yeah, 3 or 4 ideally. Look around, kind of maybe you guys could turn around and face the table behind you, the folks right behind you. That might be an easy way to get 4 and 4. And what you're asking is, what are the interferences that obstruct your performance? This is an awareness exercise. So, oh, by the way, tip on this stuff. Vulnerability works now, right? Looking good doesn't help, right now. So vulnerability, that's a mental skill, actually. So yeah, share what they are. Before you do it, and what I just want you to do is, if you're facing each other, don't be too freaked out by this, but I want you guys to just kind of sit up in your chair. Before you just start jumping in with your heads, I want you to quiet your minds down a little bit and take 4 deep breaths, right? Through the nose, out through the nose, in this case, like 5 seconds on the in, 5 on the out. And as you do so, think about, really connect to any interferences that are there for you. And then when you're ready, go ahead and start. Just launch. Okay, it's time-wise. One of the we have these rules of hardware and software. We don't have time to go through them all, but one of the rules, rule number 3, is with awareness, you can generate any software program at any time. With awareness is the beginning of that, and that's what you just did. If you aren't aware of the interferences that are there, well, it's very difficult to act on them. They will stay. And if you're waiting for some external thing to solve, like getting a grade or getting a job or having some awesome thing happen to solve the interferences, it just doesn't really work that way. But that being said, what we're going to do is get these interferences up on the board. The lovely Dr. Hanscom, with his writing ability, we have a doctor writing on the board, is going to, so I want all those things you talked about to be up on the board. Go. Family. Family. Perfect. Keep going.
We talked about the constant comparison to other people, and it feels like a race. You feel like you have to win.
Comparisons. That's black. Oh. No, comparison itself is hardware. The reaction isn't. The race.
Financial.
Money. Yes. More. This is good. Oh, there's more.
Hard repent, unjustified criticism.
Unjustified criticism. Just like that. That sounds good. Unjustified criticism.
What about justified?
Is justified criticism?
That one.
I think we can leave both. More.
Expectations.
Expectations. a little bit tied to that.
We also kind of talked about pressure to make the right decision.
Pressure, we can put pressure, and then, but it's like, what? Yeah, I mean, when you say pressure to make the right decision, how do you feel? There's another way to put it. When you're experiencing that, what is your emotional reaction? I mean, what do you feel? What does it create within you? Anxiety and stress, I heard those two words.
Ideation versus reality.
Ideation versus reality. Talk about that. The story.
The ideal pathway that you have in your mind versus how it actually comes to be. They may lead to the same end goal, but you don't really know what path you're going to take.
So it's similar to like an expectation, that ideation. Is there like a perfectionism in that? Like there's the perfect route, and if it's not that?
Yeah.
Okay, perfectionism. That's blue. Sorry, you guys are you trying to decode what we're doing?
Are we married?
Okay, this is really good. Keep going. What's that? Oh, no, I thought it. Fear. Fear of failure. Fear. Yep.
Physical ability.
Physical ability. Like skills, or like the physical ability to perform the job? Like strength?
Yeah.
Both. Okay, good. And you say physical ability, and now you're seeing where we're going a little bit, and how does that show up internally? How do you feel about that? I mean, what's the right? You're questioning that, but what's the inner reaction to that? How is that an interference? Inability. And if you're unable to do it, what does that mean?
Lack of confidence.
Lack of confidence.
Self-doubt.
Self-doubt. Frustration. Good. Time. Like?
Lack of time is when there's more stuff you want to do than the time you have.
Uh-huh. And so when that is occurring to you as an actual interference, so we're pulling on this thread a little bit. What is the inner? How do you feel?
You get frustrated. And you have to pick and choose what's important.
Frustrated. Oh, we already got that up there. And then you got to pick and choose. So you're almost giving something up, right? There's almost like you're losing something because something good you can't do, right? More. This is good.
Pride.
Pride. How is that an interference?
Maybe not considering other people's perspectives or
Pride. Could that sound a little bit like attachment? Like being attached to my way? Do you guys know what I mean by attachment? Like your identity being attached to some outcome? Which we're seeing here.
Circumstance.
Circumstance. So that's like the situation, the external circumstance. Yeah. Yeah, it could be, like the passing of a loved one. Put that up. And then there's a reaction to that, certainly, which would be grief, sadness, which in themselves don't necessarily show up as an interference, right? Sadness isn't in itself an interference, right? I mean, there are these natural sort of, you guys are the docs and future docs, so you understand about these natural, I think, hardware reactions to an external situation, right? Earlier on, and I'll just kind of weigh in on that quickly, with awareness, you can generate any software program at any time. So if there is like the loss of a loved one, right, that rule kicks in even more importantly. Sometimes it can take you over like a wave, and you're not gonna fake anything, right? But with awareness is here I feel a great level of grief. I feel so sad. And then you can ask yourself, well, is it productive to be having this thought? And the answer in that case would be yes, right? So there isn't some kind of emotional perfectionism we're shooting for where you need to be happy or a certain way all the time. We are interested in awareness, right? That's kind of what we want to have you guys leave with. This is a process of what is happening within me. Others that we want to get in there. Okay, it's a pretty good list. Now, why did we write in blue and black? Yes.
Software versus hardware.
Yes. Figured it out. It was quick.
My handwriting is hardware.
And so you can see where Dave and I were going back and forth on the idea of comparison. If you are, in an inner way, comparing yourself to other people, he wanted to write it down as a software issue, right?
It is.
Yeah, it is. But the external comparison, when you have a boss comparing you to someone else, and that's the hardware of it. So some can be both, right? He wants to take it to where you could really see where you're. Okay, talk about comparison and how problematic that is.
Well, I mean, it's a judgment pattern. I wrote a website post. By the way, you're welcome to look at my website called backandcontrol.com, which is really a great software resource.
Backandcontrol.com.
And I wrote a website post called The Myth of Self-Esteem. And it's a disaster. And so it's an endless judgment pattern. Every second, you're either better or worse than the person next to you. So you spend all this time dealing with self-esteem, and you can't get there. I mean, there's no endpoint to it. I might be a better surgeon, but I'm not a better tango dancer, as my wife will tell you. So, where does it stop? It doesn't stop. So the self-esteem thing is a complete disaster. Is this microphone on? It is. So the problem is that why is the software such a big deal? Because hardware is what it is. You can't control most of it. So it's extremely stressful trying to avoid stress. Stress isn't the problem. It's not the problem. It's the adrenalized response to the problem. So humans have a major problem. Any threat, whether it's a physical threat or a mental threat, is met with a chemical reaction that allows you to survive. It's a massive neurochemical response. That feeling is called anxiety. It is not primarily a psychological problem because this massive neurochemical response is 1 million times stronger than the conscious brain. So humans have a huge problem in evolution. We've been around for millions of years. Consciousness started about 70,000 years ago. And we're trying to control this massive thing called anxiety with psychological means. It doesn't work. In fact, the more attention you pay to these pathways, the worse it gets. So the process about hardware versus software, you become aware. So the two ways you solve that, first you do things to just drop down the adrenaline. As the adrenaline drops, that feeling of anxiety drops, body chemistry changes. So instead of having adrenaline, cortisol, and histamine, you have oxytocin, dopamine, serotonin, and the GABA drugs, which are like Valium. I mean, you have a massively beautiful chemical bath here compared to a very unpleasant chemical bath over here. The problem that humans have compared to other living creatures is you can't escape your thoughts, which create the same reaction as a physical threat. So it turns out that the mental pain is the bigger problem. That's why this software reaction is such a huge, huge deal. And so this adrenalized nervous system took me right up the hill. I was having 16 different physical symptoms at the same time before I had anxiety. I had migraine headaches, I had ringing in my ears, I had extreme anxiety, I had burning in my feet. It went on and on and on because a sustained chemical unpleasant response affects each organ system in its own specific way, and people get sick. So this software, so what you do, there's two things you do. Is you de-adrenalize the nervous system. We'll give you the one strategy here in a second. It's also called neuroplasticity, where your brain changes every millisecond. So what you're doing, you're training your brain to be less reactive, which means awareness, separation, and then reprogramming. So David's rule about you can choose any software you want. As soon as you become aware of your automatic survival response, which you need to get to stay alive. In other words, the goal is not to get rid of anxiety, otherwise you wouldn't be alive. But the goal is you don't have as much adrenaline to an appropriate threat. But more importantly, you don't have adrenaline when there's not even a threat. So again, two things to calm down anxiety and help you function much better, more consistently, is decreasing the adrenaline just by using different techniques, but also changing the response to stress. The final thing I'm going to say before David gives this exercise is that as a surgeon, I was taught skills and I was obsessive about learning. My mentors had complications. I go, that's just so stupid. I'm not going to have a complication. I honestly thought that. I really thought that. And it was in 2006. Every year I tried harder to not have a complication. It got worse. So it wasn't until I changed a complete paradigm and realized I was focused on focusing as opposed to just connecting with what's in front of me that things started to change dramatically. So this concept of performance paradigm was never taught in our surgical training. I'm doubtful it's taught in your classes at school right now about performance. But what you really want from your surgeon is consistency of performance. Just like Holt could put down a winnable run almost 85% of the time. By the way, my son that year didn't make the finals. So Holt had a way of practicing that was consistent. My son just did practice to practice. And so it's quite a different story. And my son's story is a great story, but in a different way. But anyway, it's that consistency of performance. And Holt could lay down a winnable run 85% of the time. It was unbelievable. And it's the same thing you want with your surgeon, or whatever field you go into, you want to be consistent in your performance. So David's going to give you a couple of final tools here to take home with you. And we encourage you to look at two different books. One's called The Talent Code, about how talents form. It's about the acquisition of skills. And then my book, Back in Control, A Surgeon's Roadmap Out of Chronic Pain, it's about the anxiety. Turns out anxiety is the pain. So those are two resources, but we just want to give you a taste of a couple tools today.
Yeah. Before we jump into the tool, I do want to, there's one up there of have these expectations that come from outside. So that's good to know. What we want you to really come out of here with is, if you're going or are in medicine, you're choosing a rugged field, a challenging future from a career standpoint. It's difficult, you know. You know how it is. Even in your training and going through your residency, it's difficult. You've chosen. So, and you're, you know, as you go through and progress, you're going to win at different levels. You're going to show your intelligence and your work ethic and this kind of stuff. But what we are challenging you to do, we call these seminars Awake to Wound, is to wake up, right? And to not allow these external circumstances, which you are choosing to go into and which we can readily identify as rugged and challenging, is to wake up and be able to sort of, rather than have the craft of medicine wear you down. I mean, these burnout numbers are so high, where the craft, the hardware, is damaging the software, showing up as various things that we see up there that can take you out and make your life less enjoyable. But instead, leverage your path, in your career path, whether it's medicine, surgery, you know, basketball, whatever it is you're doing. Leverage that so that surgery or medicine is a place where you practice what you want to be. What software program do you want? How do you want this to go? How do you react when things are difficult? You know it's going to happen, right? It's going to be tough. And what are you doing to actively train your mind? You're spending countless hours learning and studying and practicing in the craft that you're focused on. The technical, the hardware of it. How many hours a week are you spending training your mind? Usually the numbers are extraordinarily low. Some of you may meditate, you know, that would count, all right? So, you know, what would be wise, and we'll give you a tool right now, is to say, okay, if this matters, if I see that training the software matters, so that when I'm in high stakes, high pressure situations, I react like I want, because we were talking about it yesterday, pressure tends to squeeze out your interferences, especially when you're going to be in some high stakes, high pressure, difficult situations. It will pull out these interferences, and the time is extra low. When you lose a loved one, you know, sometimes the hardware is tough. Who do you want to be inside that? It just doesn't happen because you think about it. Just like Doc said in that letter, it needs to be practiced. So we'll give you a tool, but ultimately the objective is for you to have and curate your own mental skills training that you do on a regular basis. This is kind of the process that we're in with the fellows, some of whom are in this room, is to say, you know, I feel like we've done well if at the end you have your own curated explore the curiosity, mental training that you do, and you can incorporate micro training into any given moment. Like, grab some, here's a tool. This is micro awareness, right? We call it active awareness. You have a drink or something to eat around there, anybody? You can do it with eating. So for those of you with food, grab a bite. And or borrow a cracker unless you don't eat meat. And sip of water would be it. And I mean, you guys ate while we were talking. How many of you tasted the food? Probably didn't really engage in the flavor. So take a bite, take a sip. If you don't have anything to eat, just close your eyes and listen to the sounds. And you can smell it. Well, now maybe just take your attention as you sit there. And now close your eyes so that you can shut down that sense. And see if you can feel the weight of your body in the chair. Feel where your body is connected. Bring your attention to your clothes. Feel them resting on your body in your clothes. Okay, so come back to me here. Boom. You just took a moment and you brought yourself into the present. Right? Quiet down the thought stream as you bring yourself into just being aware of what's happening in the current moment. Right? If you're an athlete, some of these athletes are like going to look at the crowd, hear the sounds, and feel their feet on the floor. And then, one of the most kind of simple links will take you into a 3-minute exercise here to close. And it's breathing. So research shows when you kind of focus on deep breathing, especially when you accentuate the out. 4 count on the in and 6 on the out. You take 18 deep breaths. You activate your parasympathetic nervous system. Which chemicals get flowing then?
I'm an orthopedic surgeon.
Talk about it. Serotonin, good chemical, DHEA. When you're in this adrenaline response, you're stressed. You got the other chemicals. You already said those.
Yeah, no, I mean, literally, oxytocin, the love drug. You have serotonin, an antidepressant. Dopamine is the reward drugs, but people loved it, dopamine. And then the Valium type drugs, the GABA drugs, it's an incredible chemical bath. And the reason I wanted you to listen to that video so carefully is Holt had, did you hear that?
For the first time, I really had
fun. He said it. He said in the video he had fun. In other words, he performed with freedom. So paradoxically, as a surgeon, we're all focused on the outcomes, but you're focused on the outcome, and Holt knew the guy in front of him had won the race, essentially, and we didn't really give him a chance in whatever to make it, and he just felt his skis, because remember, when you're connected to sensory input, you're now by definition connected to the present moment. So he felt the skis in the snow, he felt the snow in his face, he just felt each turn as he made it, and he was aware of the interference of thinking about winning, let's give it all I can get. Same thing in surgery, we're gonna really knock it out of the park. Well, guess what? It's focus, focus, focus. You're focused on focusing, you're not actually connected to the move. So in surgery, we just go right to feel, just light touch. I get a little bit frustrated, drop my shoulders, and I do it hundreds of times per case, and now it's become automatic. But somebody stressed you out, just drop your shoulders just for a second. It's 3 seconds, done.
Okay, so we're not going to do 3 since we're close to the end of time. We'll just do a minute. Now, again, you take 3 minutes, and that's about when the nervous system kicks in. 3.5 minutes of breathing. What we'll do now is just take 6 breaths. Counting 4 on the in, 6 on the out. Really feel filling up, like you're filling up a balloon in your stomach. So deep breath, feeling it up. 4 on the in, 6 on. Okay. By the way, this is what Holt did right before he made that run. And when you get into high-stakes situations, it's a lovely tool. Take it and expand it up into 10 minutes. See if you can bring that in as a practice. Your brain, kind of the neurochemistry and the neurobiology will actually change over time. And you will be more aware so that you can redirect back into the present moment where you perform your best. On that note, thanks.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.